wanted to get into this though, because this is near and dear to my heart. All right, y'all. I love gaming. I have to fight the urge to play video games all the time. And if you're like that, then this one's for you. Okay, it's for you. And this is honestly what pulled me partially into crypto is gaming and the idea of what this technology could be used for. And we're going to do that by reviewing a specific asset. And then we're going to compare that asset to the Web 2 equivalent, if you will. So let's get into it. You guessed it. Probably not. Enjin. Okay. Enjin is a cool idea, and maybe I am too attached to their ideas, but I don't know. It's not a sexy graph if you're a charter technical analyst. We'll get to the prices here. But in general, Enjin is an awesome idea, and I am bullish on it. And I hope they're the team to do it. Okay, so I want to preface this. Um, their name is really smart, okay, because for those who don't know, a gaming engine is basically like the packets, like a software development kit, or what's a simpler way? It could just, you could think of an engine as just this bundle of code, box of code that a company like Enjin spends a lot of time building, and it defines all of the physics that could be used in a game. For example, first person shooters, we all are familiar with those like Call of Duty. There's a lot of math and a lot of data and a lot of physics there. For example, you have a 30 round clip. Of those 30, we want this gun to be 68% accurate inside of a 1 centimeter spread. Of that, only 24 will hit, and then they will do a this much damage to the body, this much to the leg, this much to the shoulders, the hands, the head. You get it. All these different guns will fall into those set of rules and physics, and all of that stuff is already programmed and figured out by a company like Enjin. And then someone like Activision can come scoop up that engine, pay fees, have a copyright, whatever, and be way further ahead of their development. That's why you see the engine being used in games advertised, because it's a partnership. I want you to understand that because Enjin is basically building the same stuff for Web3 games. And it's really important to understand that this does not work. This stuff here, and I'll explain some of this stuff, and a Web3 game does not work without very different rules than Web 2. So you have to understand something like this has to exist. We're going to need someone to build engines for game developers that are specific to tokens, how they'll perform, how they'll interact with users, how they connect to liquidity to pull your value out, how they connect to a secondary exchange to sell your NFTs that you earned in game. There's a lot there that no engine currently has, and Enjin is trying to fix that. So, conceptually, awesome. Basically, they have streamlined NFT usage to the point where I can just do it through a QR code with public wallet addresses, no different than crypto.com. But the cool thing is, this is inside of a game. So if you were playing two different games that used Enjin's engine and it's on the EVM or Ethereum virtual machine, I could just send you my avatar, which is just a cool idea, right? Also, the wallet has tons of features specific to games. Again, this is a gaming coin, a gaming infrastructure play. Okay, you can see here that those microtransactions we talked about, like the spread of your bullet and accuracy, very, very cheap to store that for your, dashboard, which is wonderful. 5,000 transactions a second, honestly, is a lot. I don't think it's enough for mass play, but this next wave, okay, could very well use this, and that is enough computability for the first iteration of Web3 gaming, like we see today with Dark Forest, maybe. Um, I'll get into the tech here in a second. This is where I live, logical designs and building a product here. There's a few different things I want to show you that gets me excited as someone that, does this for a career. But before that, I want to get into the charts. This thing is old, guys. It is from 2018 to 2024. It is 6 years old. And you can see it did nothing. I mean, look at this. These little bull runs. That's all it did, man. 3 cents to 10, 19, 20, and then back down. And you must ask yourself, like, why is that? Why is this so small compared to this? Well, you have two things. One, you have to understand Enjin is an ERC protocol. It exists in the Ethereum ecosystem. When these apes went off the chart and you had Axie Infinity, you had Immutable X and Polygon, you had all these things come on board that made Web3 gaming credible. And look what Enjin did. The second there was a use case for Enjin, they were way ahead of the curve. It went gangbusters. Now, after Bitcoin crashes to 15K, do you believe that anyone is going to be excited about opening their wallet and playing a game? No. Decentraland, Sand, there's so many things that popped off in this time period, guys, that caused this price. Where I don't see how they don't have a similar catastrophic rise when, and this is only the thing with my channel, I talk about the infrastructure and long-term plays only if someone builds something just as exciting, if not more exciting, than these Bored Ape Yacht Clubs, okay, than Decentraland and Sandbox and all this other stuff. Only then will we see a meteor or like a massive rise, right? Okay, I believe it's very possible that something like that gets built, but you have to understand the space we're playing in. Okay, this is long-term infrastructure for Web3 gaming, and they don't have the throughput that is required. So it is risky, but I believe they will figure it out. Okay, I believe these companies are going to figure out. They've been through the slums and the troughs. They're still here and they're still crushing it, you guys. I mean, crushing it, in my opinion. Right? That's crushing it. So the exciting thing about Enjin, before I conclude here, guys, is this structure at the moment is super interesting to me. Basically, you're down here. They have a software developer kit, which is required when you sell engines. So basically, the developer can pay whatever they pay to get access to this SDK. And then in that SDK, all of those predefined physics and rules for a game will be in there, and they allow them to modify them to their own use, which is really cool. And that's basically how everyone in Web 2 works. Then they have an API that can connect to their wallet, which basically can support all of the things that are in this SDK. So it's very turnkey. You can just spin up the game, connect to the wallet, and then users can do whatever they want. This wallet doesn't even have to have an interface. It could literally just be a wallet that sits there that then populates an interface that someone would build. And then you have this relay chain to NFT.io. I thought that was very interesting. So when I go into the relay chain, I know this looks maybe a little confusing here. And by the way, if you're investing in something and you don't go to the white paper and read and understand this stuff, you're really hurting yourself. Um, this is literally their message to the world, and it's 2 months. It was updated 2 months ago, which is a very good sign. So especially coming out of this bear market. Just a side note. Either way, what I really, really, really like about this, okay, guys, is this would allow people essentially to spin up NFTs really, really, really fast and then have them associated to other use cases. So, and that's kind of the crux of Web3 infrastructure in gaming because every asset you interact with in a Web3 game would be a token. It may not be an NFT, non fungible, it could be fungible, but it's going to be a token. And that's kind of the appeal. That's why it's so different. I like that they modeled this off of Polkadot, mainly because of the interoperability that Polkadot has due to a similar architecture. Okay, guys. The I guess the most exciting thing really is like this little ball here, okay, could be an NFT, right? You have this matrix chain where in the center here is Enjin's kind of business. This is what they're doing. This relay chain is effectively going to publish NFTs to all of these little circles here and to this matrix chain. You can see these little spheres can also connect to other matrix chains. And all of them are going to be related to one another because they all are born from this relay chain origin. The fact that it all comes from one place and could be infinitely scaled to all these different endpoints, I've read this, the basically what the net sum that you need to be worried about as an investor, potential investor could be, is how quickly they can scale functionality between tokens. No different than Polkadot's parachain kind of idea. This relay chain is going to allow different NFTs across different games work together and be able to do that very simply because when you mint the NFT, it already is connected to an infinite amount of matrix chains and and nodes. So, a use case example very well could be I did this on TikTok, I make a mount. That mount has ground speed and whatever else, okay? And another game that used the same engine, right, could be completely unrelated, like there's no mounts in it. Well, I could take my mount to that game and make a new game experience in that new game as a theory, okay? Because the tokens would be interoperable in that scenario with this kind of architecture, which is it's just interesting to me. If that doesn't interest you, I don't know what I can do, okay? It's a cool idea. The team's great. It's an old thing. Lindy's Law is real. And I don't know, looking at that activity when games started popping off just gets me really excited for next bull run because, guys, it's down 22x from its all-time high. I don't know if it'll get there or not. I don't have a magic ball, but I can personally say that I'm interested in it. My fund is interested in it, and I'm very bullish on just Web3 and gaming in general. And there's not a lot of great conservative plays in that space, and that's kind of my shtick. I look for the big, old, exciting things in our space, and that's why you just subscribed, liked, commented, and engaged, baby, because I bring you heat. At least I try. Okay, but I don't know, this was fun. Until next time, I want you all to take care of one another and just be positive and uplifting. This space is just full of just garbage, and we need to support each other. This is an exciting thing. We all could get rich from caring about this stuff and supporting one another, trying to build this new industry and infrastructure for the evolution of the internet and the future of our children. It's just sick. So, until then, guys, talk to you later.